All right, I think we're on. So, hello, it's so good to see you all. I do feel like a stranger. Glad to be back. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I emailed out to you guys our objective and action items and things, so just so we can jump right in. Today we're going to look at walkthrough data to date to determine concerns by department as well as individual teacher concerns. So I know a lot of you guys have done walkthroughs and given feedback either through cluster or just through teachers that you are evaluating this cycle, unannounced and announced. But admin team has been out doing some too, and we've actually talked about some ways to merge so that we can look at your data as well and quantify it, because yours is just in written format. So we'll talk about a little bit of that we talked about on the admin side. But we're going to start off by looking at walkthrough data. Ms. Harris emailed you some reports that we can pull from Ed Euphoria just based on admin team. And so we want to look at maybe some trends that you see there for your department, or just individual teachers that stand out. We'll talk about that too. But our action item for today is to review this data to determine trends or concerns. So before we really get into it, if you're not with your master or mentor, go ahead and do that now. I know we've got meetings all over the place where a couple of our members are out, but for the most part, we want to do admin, master, and mentor. So go ahead and get together. Okay, before you get started, I know you all are jumping in already, but what I want, to get you going, I want you to look at some of the documents that are going in. We just printed out a copy trying to save more trees and send it to you electronically, but I think that's what Ms. Harris has been working on. But there are some documents that have the different eval logs and walkthrough going around. So you'll be able to look at those, and hopefully in the next minute you'll see that email come up. But based on your walkthroughs and the data you see, I want you to be able to share it with us some concerns, because what we're going to do is take this information or take the concerns you have, and we're going to spot check some specific things through walkthroughs over the next couple of days. So next week we can come back and talk about those concerns, see if we need to adjust cluster cycle to include those, or our PD for this cycle via PLC or faculty meetings. So a couple of goals here. We want to look at what you're seeing in your groups, and that will be through the data you have that we're passing out and emailing, and also through the data you found just through walkthroughs. We're going to let's take 5 minutes just to talk about that, and then we'll come back. I know we'll need to break back into it, and let me set my timer.
Not always saying but not implemented, and this is for the new teachers, not implemented to the level that it is implemented in. And so we go back and coach them, redo, model, like I've done that several times, model how to do it personally with the specific class. A lot of their fifth periods, that's what I do a lot of my basketball. A lot of their fifth periods are huge, and they have that grasp on it, so going in there modeling and see how it can also work in this class, not in this class.
It's not any problem.
Oh, actually, remake.
My feedback for a week, you know, there's that putting on
Seconds to wrap up.
It's lower than okay. So she had, and I know she's, I've had witness her she's like what, but I haven't really seen what that look like.
10 seconds.
You know, outside is really.
It'll be unexpected.
All right, time's up. Let's come back in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Just really quickly, I know you guys do this on a regular basis within your groups, but what we want to do is get the admin involved a little bit more in being more specific and intentional when we go through so that we can have more pieces of data to support what we're seeing or not seeing. So I'm going to pick on electives. Give us 2.
Broad objectives, not being specific enough to determine whether or not they've mastered their objective or the learning. So broad objectives and activities that are not really engaging.
Okay.
So activities and materials would be the other indicator. So
Okay.
standards and objectives and activities and materials.
All right. Social studies.
One concern we have, and we'll just go with cluster. One of the concerns we have is that they're not implementing their cluster learning on a daily basis. And then some of them, when they do implement it, it's not done to the degree that it needs to be done. So we're having to go in and model and then have them do it again. So one of the things Eric said is have them sign up before they need cluster if they need a model. And then the next thing is the amount of teacher-led instruction in the classroom, not enough student to student.
Science.
Overall, concerns about pacing, classroom pacing lessons, having clear closures and presenting instruction content.
Okay. Math.
Go ahead. Okay. Kind of segmenting to get to checks for understanding throughout to support higher levels of student engagement and participation with that student to student. Like we worked on several strategies in cluster, and so just continuing to use those throughout.
Okay. ELA.
So we talked about beginning the lessons promptly, so, lesson pacing and structure, and then we also talked about activities as well for like early finishers and, you know, of course, them being engaging.
Good. I was actually just in a session today where we talked about passing out papers. We had to watch a video and discuss what went wrong in there, and one of the things that I noticed was the amount of time the teachers spent passing out papers, and they shared some research that said if you only spent, I think, about 30 seconds per class period doing that over a year, it amounts to 12 days of instruction loss in passing out papers. I don't know who did the math, but that was the research they shared with us. So, when you talk, I just had that kind of connection when we talked about bell to bell, kind of that thing. You should have now, if you'll pull it up for me, we're going to come back to that, but I want you to look at the Ant-Man walkthroughs that we've done so far to see if anything falls in line with that. Walkthrough analysis. Ms. Harris sent it, or did you just send it to me?
I did, let me fix that right now.
I'll get started. It should be coming your way soon. But it looks at when we went in, beginning of lesson, middle of lesson, or end of lesson. So,